Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of our series, Advancing Consciousness series. My name is Franco De Nicola, for anybody that doesn't know who I am, and is the first time you're watching this. But at this time here, tonight's episode is episode 9, and it wasn't quite the episode we were planning to cover because we had some scheduled. However, because of everything that's playing out, it's important or felt very inspired to be able to bring this to you. So tonight's theme, basically, or this afternoon, what's really happening within the current chaos, but really, it's a dance. It's a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful opportunity that we've provided ourselves at this time. Now, I know that many of us are feeling all types of experiences right now with what we can call fear, concern, and there's some that have brought it to the point where it's the end of the world or something of that nature. But, when we really look at it at this point in time, it's serving us in a big way because, we co-created this. And it's not that, we have to look at it and say, okay, we've co-created a chaos. That's not really the case that what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that we have, for a while now, have been really in a position to say, okay, we're looking for change. We're wanting to experience change. And many of us have been led through all these experiences, starting from 87, then to the next stage at the end of 2012, going into 2013, then stepping into other facets in 2017 and beyond. So here we are in 2020, and we just stepped into the third stage, which started at the end of 2019, going into 2020, and here we are. But, and then a lot of people were saying at that point in time, okay, I'm not seeing changes around me. I'm also seeing that everybody's still stagnant, stuck in their reality and so forth. We're not seeing change. So many of us on a collective scale saying, okay, we're ready for the bring in whatever we need to bring in to kind of shake things up, to shift things, to bring things in alignment in a way or another. Now, most of what we are experiencing at this time was really something that was plugged in from a long while back, so that if it required to go one way or another, it was going to be plugged in now. And prior to this, we weren't really ready, and we weren't ready for the opportunity to respond in a different way than what we have the capacity to respond now. Because most of the response would have been the fight and flight and the fear and the survival and all of that, which, on a collective scale, that is playing out, but not as intense as it would have had we launched this experience at that time. So right now, what we're doing is we set the stage for us to be able to change things in a big way. So it's now global. This could have just went in pockets in certain countries and so forth. Now I know there's a variance of how intense it is in certain countries and so forth, and you could look at it and say, okay, we're feeling it a little more because our governmental structures and so forth are shutting things down or whatever it is, right? But other places may not be so involved in that same degree. But however, there is not a place on the planet right now that is not in one way or another experiencing what is taking place at this time. We also have to understand that what is taking place at this point in time is very energetically supported for us to really step into another state of being, to really go into a state where we are really accentuating the movement forward. Now, what better way for us to really get to a position where we can actually take the time to slow down, to also go into the activation of a lot of our old stories, programs, and belief systems, which are very fear-based. And I know I talked about this in one of the videos that we did, and in actual fact, it was part of one of the last series episode 8. But we're kind of being put on hold, in a sense, giving us time to slow same way as we did before. So let's start working more. At this point, we're going to have from the depth of fear and survival to the point of celebration and excitement because of the fact that we are seeing evidence all around us in the beautiful screen of this beautiful playground that we have created for opportunity for us to move forward. So this is a beautiful dance that we've agreed to play with and utilized along the way. So really, it's an opportunity for us now to step into a state that wouldn't have been so easy and possible unless this unleashed. Now, I know a lot of people have put a lot of fear and focus on what was going to happen and so forth. And I did cover the fact that the virus really is not the main focus, even that. The main focus is it's time for change. The main focus is time for us to start to reflect and take a look at how we've played the game of life. Because really, the game of life we've played has served us and brought us to this point in time in a beautiful, powerful way. However, it was a very polarized, very separate way of playing, which the main focus has been through survival and struggle and feeling you have to be driven by fear. And so the survival mode kept coming up in a big way in our whole world experience. Now, one of the things I've noticed by observing the collective, meaning all of us on this playground, fear was a very powerful instigator in slowing us down because people asked for change. They wanted to change, see things to change. But the automatic thing is anytime any change was looming, then we would go into this fear modality. So this is why a lot of the slowing down now, because we needed to be energetically charged in a very powerful way so that we can get to a point where we are able and ready to handle fear in a very constructive way. So now this whole idea that this is going to wipe us off the map and something of that nature is not really what's taking place. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about the fact that the virus was going to wipe out and do all types of things, that it was in one way or another was going to be activated in such a point where, you know, all of a sudden we can go into martial law, we can go into restrictions and force the vaccinations and so forth. However, as much as those opportunities are there, really the collective is not open to that, including the martial law thing, meaning that you're restricted and you're given a curfew or timing of some sort, or even being exposed to some military forces going around telling you what to do. Because really, any of that would create more restriction. Now, the service of that restriction would be for us to connect more with ourselves. So the fear that's being projected is not really the fear that something is going to harm us, or that, you know, in one way we have to go into survival mode, even though a lot of people have gone into that. The fear is being used as a tool, as a motivator, stimulator, and allowing us to really experience that. And what we're doing is experiencing that intensity to give us the opportunity to see how much it has driven our life up to this point in time, how much power we've given to it, how much it has either propelled us to move forward in a big way in that lower frequency and being, you know, playing in the 2D and inverted 3D state of being through the inverted matrix, which has basically been part of our, or the majority of our experience up to this point in time. So it's really driving us into that and seeing how much of that has happened. Because when you look at fear itself and our old way from a 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix state of being, it actually slowed us down. It actually didn't allow us to be ourselves more fully, okay? Because in essence, if fear's in the way, you are very selective of what you choose to experience. But is it for your highest good? Is it really what you came here to do? Because we came here to play and experience life in a physical body and to experience it on this particular playground. which, was rampant with the whole operating system of the inverted matrix, 2D, inverted 3D, which is fear-based, separation-based, feeling disconnected from ourselves and really forgetting who we are. So as much as all of that was there, you really came here to not only experience it for a temporary period of time, but to really advance in a huge way out of that and to really put a closure to that whole experience. The closure is because we're done with the experiences, because we've gotten to the point where we've reached the saturation, but also understood the polarity game of life. So right now what we're doing is very different because the fear up to this point in time has created us to really live in these boxes, this world of this 2D inverted 3D inverted matrix state of being. So in fact, even if we came here as a playful, excited, looking forward to really express and be the grandest aspect of yourself while in a beautiful physical body, the power that we have the capacity to is phenomenal. Because really, when we look at who we truly, truly are from every aspect, from physicality to human entity to soul, we're source. And even the planet is a part of the source. Everything is source. And we've come here as source to have this human experience, but as source to really just temporarily experience the limitation, to really accelerate outside of all of that. And that's what we're doing. And we stepped into the game only to transform the game, to really go through a transitional aspect of it. And now we've brought ourselves to the point where this transition is very much more as an opportunity to play. So now fear is actually elevating and bringing up any remaining ideas, concepts, belief systems, and ideas of how to live life in the old, what we call inverted 2D, 3D, inverted 3D and 2D and inverted matrix parts, so that we can accelerate the purge, a part of it. And now, because we're in kind of what you can call as a lockdown, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to be able to connect more with ourselves. Now, of course, there's going to be some distractions at this point. Distraction has a lot to do with how much focus we put on things. But if we can bring the distractions to the highest level of ourselves, then we can get beyond the distraction, because you're going to get tired of the distraction. You're going to get tired of watching. And when I say tired, not in the old version of tired, you're getting to the point is like, do I really want to put focus on what is taking place at this time on the background? Do I really want to do that? Do I want the opportunity to say, okay, I'm done playing with this part of the game, and I now want to understand really the opportunity I've presented myself? Because this we provided to ourselves. It's not been thrown to us. It's not like it's been thrown for you. You basically allowed that to come in, not from any point of idea that there was an error in that design or the error of how we launched it. It was the perfection, because we had to play within the game so that we can transition and transform and to step out of the old game. So here we are, we're using fear as a motivator to basically bring up anything that we are, not choosing to experience. The other thing is, this opportunity that's happening right now, it's also giving us the opportunity to to break the pattern of being always on the go, always searching and moving forward and maintaining the old way of life, meaning that I need to go to work, I need to do this, I need to follow all these things and look at all of the things that we kept ourselves distracted with and busy. And, with the idea that one day I'm going to slow down, take the time at this point in time to really connect with myself, but also not only with yourself, with other aspects of yourself, like your own kids if you're with kids, if with other people if you're out with other people, to be able to stay spending quality time together. It's been more of doing, something as a family, something with a group, something of that nature. But now it's like, okay, we're going to look at this, because you're choosing at this point to say, okay, we're not going to reflect as the old way of going. And look at the way it's been down. Not only the locking down of what's going on, it's slowed down our running around. It has a look at all the things that are playing out in the old systems, the different systems that we had in place. Because what's happening is it's actually changing the old modality, or at least creating the opportunity for us to look at the old modality where we put a lot of focus on the monetary systems and all the other systems that have supported us up to this point in time in playing really the inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D. So right now, everything that we are creating and experiencing is really changing us in a big way, and we have to see it for that. I mean, you could choose not to. You could, because, we're under attack by what? A virus or something of that nature, or by the fact that, we have to go into fear and anything of that nature. But you're going to come to the realization more and more, and many of you have already come to that realization. It's like, oh, great, this is an opportunity that I gifted myself that I wasn't able to do because I couldn't slow down long enough, or even take a breather and see that there are other options. Some people are going to be working from home, and some people will realize, I don't have to travel back and forth every day, ever feel, or that, some of the services that are non-essential, because if you start looking at it as non-essential, that is now looked at a different viewpoint. Because, if you really look at it, most of the things that we are doing is because we believe that it's necessary, but the necessity is really focused on the financial component, and saying, well, if I don't do something, it doesn't matter what it is, if I don't go do something, I won't have monetary systems, or the money required to us to we can come now to the realization as we're going along that that's not so. In fact, that we can actually express and experience and be part. Money does not stop circulating or anything of that nature just because we went on hold. Because even if we create a relief programs or anything of that nature, realizing where's it coming from? It's all just self-created. It's created from a system, but the system has no limits to what it can or cannot do, because as long as we're not abiding to any laws and regulation, what do you call it? And it's fake. It's not really, because in fact you could say, okay, we can plug in whatever we want and unplug whatever we want at any point in time. So now we're coming to that further realization of how that all plays out, giving us the opportunity at this point to really shift things in a big way. Really, this is a gifting that we have done. It wasn't against my system. It's not against any part of what we've created as an opportunity to play. So when we look at all of this, we look at what we're experiencing right now, it's bringing us closer together, and it's letting us see that we are a huge community with many other smaller communities. With that, you come to the realization that we're not alone. Look at it this way. You may have felt more alone before than now, because now you kind of set the stage so that you huddle together, come together, and really just see, okay, how can we play this? Because it's not about the old way of feeling, okay, everyone's busy. Taking the time to connect with one another, and heard from people that they all of a sudden they're having conversations with their children. They're having conversations with people that they, have not before. Why? Because Now there's a commonality, there's an opportunity to slow things down because not everybody is super busy. There may be an opportunity to say, well, okay, now I got to make sure everything is okay, but that's really not, because now a lot of people are not, needing to go to work in the same way or anything of that nature. Now, certain parts, yes, but in essence, to give that opportunity for us at this point. Now, we have to understand, as we move through this, and this is not going to be something that's going to last in the same degree as it was or believed to be. The thing is, the gifting that we have here, this experience we're going through, is going to change us in a very profound way. The whole landscape of the playground we call Earth, the operating system that we've engaged in and have played up to this point in time, who we are experiencing ourselves in physical form. You're not going to go back to the old world. It doesn't matter if everything changed a week from now or 2 weeks from now and everything got back on track. You're not going to be different. You're not going to be the same. I'm sorry. You're not going to be the same. The world's not going to be different, because right now, this slowing down is actually giving us time to reflect, but it's also allowing the energies that planet Earth, Gaia, whatever you want to call it, is emanating through us. The beautiful energies that are coming onto the planet at this time is also giving us time to be able to integrate more of that. Because as long as you're rushing and you don't make the time, then what happens is it takes a longer process. And we've already agreed to speed things up in a big, okay? Because we really want to get into the playing of the organic 3D and organic 5D state of being. And then eventually fully 100% in organic 5D. So this is what we're doing right now. We're giving ourselves the opportunity to let those energies come in, and also for us to spend time to look at ourselves, connect with ourselves, and to really experience who we are in a bigger way. Because many of us, unless something traumatic happens in our lives, or something that, is life-changing in one way or another, really never spend time to connect with themselves or ourselves. Don't do the meditation, don't do the quiet time of reflecting and looking at your life, because this is an opportunity for you to look at your life and say, okay, am I on track? Am I really doing what I love to do, what I feel natural, what energizes me, or am I doing something just putting in time? Because if you look at it, most of us are putting in time to finally get to a point where we actually have whatever we believe is going to support us so that we can actually do what we're here to do. And I've seen many people that get ill and then are ready to, on their deathbed, and realize that all that time I put in to get ready, I'm not even going to be able to experience it because now I'm checking out. Okay? So, the thing is, I'm not saying to live your life as this is your last day, because that's not the way to focus on it. We're looking at it as this day is fully presenting for me to utilize maximum state, going fully into it. And we've talked about it. So if we're going to look at some of the things that are playing out, we are right here. Okay? Everything here is our past. The future is open for design. Oops. For design. Put a divider there. For us to design, for us to shape. And the thing is, because of the path that we've been on and the patterns that we've had and the feeling that the hamster wheel, we basically, the designing of each moment, because that's where we live, has been very much replicated from what we've been replicating, using very much so the 2D, inverted 3D, and inverted matrix, even though that is not operational any longer, we're still living it. So at this point, we've said, okay, what can we do to step into an opportunity for us to redesign, I should put the rest of it, redesign redesign our journey, our life, our creation, because you're a powerful creator. You didn't come here to just be in creation. You came here to create. You came here to experience your creation and to advance your creation more and more than ever before. So right now, like I said, we're going through the purging process of letting go of the past, letting go of all attachments, letting go of all patterns that one way or another we've taken on, so that we're not bringing it into each moment any longer. We're allowing ourselves to be able to be open and redesigning our life rather than, reflecting any part of it. So we can't really use a measure of anything that may have happened before, because sometimes people are reflecting, well, what happened to the Great Depression, all these other times. Yeah, we may have not been there, and many of us have not been involved in that. Some have. But, that was very different. So if we're looking back here saying, well, that was a particular experience, that experience there was what was there at that time, the state of consciousness of people, the energies that we were playing with, the state of consciousness of our collective energetic imprints, where the planet was situated in all of the stages that we were in the ready and non-ready state to shift things. So, of course, it's going to be very different. There's nothing we can replicate. And even, a lot of people are saying, well, there's systems out there, or we got, different governmental operations, and also what we can call the cabal, and what we can call different organizations and secret governments, or whatever you want to call it, any of that stuff that may have different plans, and saying, okay, we're going to activate this so that we can confine and restrict people to continue playing in this, because if we can do that, then, we still have control. But the purpose, even that, right now, even if that was so, and that, in a way, there's a reflection to that, we are on a collective saying, something, thank you for the offer, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to do that any longer. Because again, what's happening, it also plays the game, or what is being perpetuated at any point. We're the ones that collectively agree it's going to go one way or another. And it's we're mistaken in that regard with that understanding, because each one of us, are positioned all over the world to be able to be that very powerful conduit of that design, because we're all interconnected. So each one of us that chooses saying we're not going to choose to participate, then it won't. So even though it's played out up to this point in time, where you felt that you didn't want to participate, but you have to look at the participation part, saying, am I not participating with this because I'm afraid of it? Not participating because in some way I have an issue with that experience? Or you're not participating because I'm done with the experience. Very different, very powerful between one and the other, because when you're trying to run away from an experience, it's very different than saying, time to move on from that experience with appreciation, love, and playfulness. Okay? Saying, okay, that was a great experience. It's like anything else. And you're in a relationship where you're not feeling aligned with, but if there's fears involved, or what that means if the separation takes place, for example, the fear of being alone, the fear that you're not going to be financially supported, the fear that in one way or another you're not going to meet anybody again, or whatever it is, or the fear that somehow it may have a backlash or anything of that nature, then you're going to have a tendency to get to a point where you're afraid to make any move. Given a time, and when I say time, it's basically you continuing to experience that, you get to the point where you say, something? It doesn't matter what I fear, what I believe, or what I'm projecting forward. It does not matter. Time. Negative. It's more like it's time to align with something different, because I choose to feel life very differently. And this is what happens with anything that we shift. So we're saying, okay, we're not going to participate because, hey, we've played that. We've done that. We've experienced that. We're done with that. We're just done with it. That's all. It's not about one thing or another. We're done. We're time to move on. Time to play in a different way of constructing. So we knew coming here that we were staging ourselves scenarios for us to really change in a big way. Okay? So for us, we were already privy from the different levels of ourselves. However, the ego mind's not going to say that because it basically, when you were talking about it, and I know I talked about it many times, the ego, AI, is a program that is designed completely. It's a program completely operating within the fear confine, but really the program is about supporting this, okay? And it's only going to stay active until we finally say, we're done with this, with love. And this is the thing. We're here to experience this grand aspects of love in a place that has reflected up to this point in time lack of it. Lack of our own love for ourselves. Now, I know it's impossible not to experience love. And when I say not experience, not to be that love, because you are it. Your own existence and creation is love. But we can create lots of stories, programs, belief systems, and judgment, self-judgment that would not allow us to experience it because we're going to experience all the noise on the surface when the core is purely that. So for us right now is to love our current experience, to love what's taking place at this point in time. And you'll see when you allow that to come through, all the fear, if you allow the fear to be there within you, okay, and any other stories of survival and what could happen to you, the kids, the family, the friends, to whatever. If you allow that to come through, spending the time to allow it. Now, you have more time, especially when things have been put on hold on many, many levels. And just love the experience of all of those fears and concerns and stories, allowing you to appreciate it as it is a movie unfolding. You will see it will not be able to sustain itself. It starts to dissolve or starts to become form. Talking about this, the other thing I wanted to also mention is that I know there's a lot of conversation and talk about, some of this stuff has been predicted. Yes, it's true. The predictions were done in a certain way because we knew that by 2020, it was plugged in as a major, major transformational component. That whole process that was required because it's saying, okay, we're putting a cutoff time for us to be able to really shift things so that we don't stay on the old pattern. Because 10,000 years of the same pattern is kind of a, long time to be able, and even though there's no such thing as that, from the humanity experience of it going and repeating those patterns was okay, we're done with this, part of it. So as much as all of those predictions were made with, the collapses and all of that stuff, how far it goes will really depend on how we or what we need for us to create a shift in ourselves. So in ourselves and a shift on a collective scale, okay? So really looking at it, everything that we've brought into this coronavirus because of the idea of what that represents and the fear that's been in there, it's just a tool. It's a tool to respond in different ways. It's never been the fact that, this is going to come in and wipe us out, because realistically, we can activate any part of it at any time. But this one was perfect. They needed to play out this. And then that was even predicted because the coronavirus had been around before. It has come through at different times. Now, of course, it's a different strain with certain intention, but those intentions are playing out in ways that support us rather than the intention that was originally intended or how it was constructed. But look at it this way. If it really was to be used as a pandemic aspect and wiping people out, we would have had much more going on than what is going on right now. And why? Look at it this way. Why would the governments and all the different authoritative organizations, or whatever you want to call it, say, okay, we got to lock down, we got to step in so we don't share it amongst each other? If your intent was fully of taking out as many people as possible on the planet, guess what? You wouldn't have gone that and said, okay, keep traveling, keep doing whatever it is, doesn't matter. Nobody would have paid attention to it until, some level of death toll started to increase. Because we've had many other vehicles that does that already, and that was not any different. But in essence, it's like, okay, they were instructed from their higher self to say, okay, we need to react this way, respond this way, so that we give time for things to pass through. It may not be understood in a big way, but the passing through was really, really, in a way, beneficial for us to step into. Is it something that you can say is massive? Of having that be powerful? But look at it. It doesn't spread, even though it's, worldwide to a certain degree. But if you really look at it, the death toll is extremely low. People that are infected, doesn't matter what age they're at, old or young, have it and move through it. So is it any different than any other virus? Because if you look at it, how many viruses or flus we get every year? Different strains constantly. But really what happens too, you have to look at it, that any of them can have been taken the way it needed to be taken, in a way, to say, okay, that's elevated. So does it exist? Yes. Is it powerful? The potential is there, but it isn't. Look at it the other way. The energies right now that are supporting us are not even allowing to escalate. And this is why you're saying, okay, well, if it's so bad, why, people are not dropping dead all over the place, and why, all of this stuff is not going on? Because it's saying, no, we just need enough of it to slow things down, to create the opportunity, the window for us to really look at things very differently. So does it exist? Yes. Is it powerful? Potential is yes, but not, because it's been pushed down. Now, when you really look at it, how it's being propagated, how it's being stimulated, and when I say about the information about it, about the fear of it, that it really is just a push. So is it as big, as scary as it's being said? Absolutely not. But at the same time, saying, okay, well, if we have to scare people, in this sense, for them to slow down and have the reason to create a change in them, then that takes place. So the focus on it, if you really look at it from even a scientific, because there's a lot of scientists that have been looking at it and saying, well, why are we even calling it a pandemic when it's really not really doing that much of anything, and people recover from it, and the few that drop off, those are, they could have used any of the vehicles, and there are times that people drop off, but it wasn't a coronavirus at all. It was another virus or another reason for them to use that. And like I said, we have the option if we're going to use it to leave, or are we going to use it to slow us down, or are we going to use it to create more fear for ourselves, or whatever it is, so that we can really just elevate to a higher state of being. Did you have another question? Because I'm looking at the fact that you do.
Yes. Natalie had sent us a question about social distancing and self-isolation.
Mm-hmm.
She says, in my heart, I feel that it's so important to gather together community, and this is the offerings I've been doing in the homeschooling community. It's been advised against gathering socially and having play dates in order to flatten the curve. This seems strange to me, and for some people, isolation may give way to solitude, but I think there is advancement to be found in communing in joy and open-heartedness. I feel I'll be met with judgment and called socially irresponsible. I'm in orchestrating gatherings despite the guidelines. Can you speak to this notion of social distancing to flattening the curve? Does it seem like they are just trying to get us in our homes and close the doors so they can do what they need to do outside?
Well, if you look at it, yes. I mean, the thing is, the way we were going to respond to this is saying, okay, do I, disconnect myself from everybody? See, with any change to come in, the first part of any change is the change within ourselves. So if we are going to experience that isolation, we're going to really need to reflect and connect with ourselves. Now, at the same time, as much as you may not meeting in person, more and more people are connecting online or connecting through the telephone or connecting through different aspects where they're creating what you can call a support. But the support is not to say, okay, this is a horrible thing or whatever it is. The support is like, okay, let's play with this. Let's experience it. I mean, this transmission right now, this series right now, or this episode is being focused on the fact that you have a deeper understanding so that you really, the deeper understanding that you already have, to confirm that, is that we don't need to play it in any way that, is the typical. So in your case, find ways to maintain that communication. And, the idea of this social irresponsibility, because of the fact that, you're creating an environment where, people can share it amongst each other because they're coming together, is the current belief at the moment, because of all of the stuff that's being said, that, you have to be careful that you don't breathe on each other, whatever it is. But they've already tested it out, where they've already looked at the whole idea of taking people being exposed to all that and not have anything really happen to them. They don't pick up that particular virus. So this virus is really, as much as it's already in the air and has been for a while, and it has been in our system because we have those encodements in. It's really what's being transmitted energetically and otherwise, and it doesn't matter if it's from the satellites, because, they're talking about it being 5G or whatever it is, that it's stimulating that particular frequency. Yes, it may play a particular role in it and so forth, but in essence, it's really if it gets activated within yourself. So create grouping, gatherings, and so forth, not to support each other because we're in survival mode, but, the communication of seeing that we can communicate with one another, we can connect with one another, that we're all in the same playground here on this planet. Until, people start to get a little bit more comfortable with that, then, you may have those restrictions and so forth of saying, well, we're not going to get together in a play day in the park or something like that, or in a building of some sort. Look at what's happening in Europe, especially in Italy and whatever else. People feel isolated and shut down completely, but they're standing on their balcony and they're singing, and there's many, many people that are singing. That is already a connection, a very powerful communication, because as they're singing, they're letting their energies, their come out, and they're sharing it with one another. On their balconies or whatever it is. Hearing that already uplifts you, because that wouldn't have happened in the same way if we weren't in this particular situation. The fact that we're, many of us are communicating with one another in one way or another is really very, very supportive. The idea of saying, okay, I got to make sure that I'm okay or whatever it is, that's still from survival and older program, but that's going to break down along the way. So in essence, you're going to have to take that, because people are still very much fearing the fact that we're in contact with each other. Then, we could spread it, because that's kind of the story, the narrative, or whatever you want to call it, that's being projected out there. But let's be creative and find ways to connect that doesn't have that part, until those barriers break down, those stories. It's like, oh, what do you mean? That's like I said earlier, people are connecting on the phone, online, in different ways, which they haven't connected for a very long time, to actually appreciate the journey that they've had with each other. So the thing is, too, the realization of whatever, because a lot of people have resentment towards each other, including family members and so forth, and have seen themselves in one way or another being in a situation where, okay, look, we haven't talked for a very long time. What story did we give power to it and so forth? So now you start looking through it and say, well, this is not really supportive here. I want to reconnect, and sometimes that doesn't happen, but you reconnect, but you're reconnecting from a whole completely different state. So that make sense, or is there something you would like to share around
Oh,
that?
no, I was just going to say it's a good opportunity for unifying on a different level.
And creating a support mechanism to really look at it, because collectively we're looking at this whole scenario, and as we go along, this whole thing about survival, whatever else, it starts to wear down, and then we say, okay, how do we want to create our reality? How do we want to create our world? How do we come together? Because the thing is, we are in a stage where oneness is more powerful than it's ever been before. It's not about separation any longer, because this is one playground. You've come to aspects of yourself. Because, excuse me, if you came here to play by yourself, you would have been on a planet by yourself and say, well, I just want to connect with Gaia. I just want to connect with the, what we call the sentient beings. We want to connect with, what's there, but I want to be alone. But you didn't. You created many, many, many facets of yourself to come and play together. Be about the dance, because nothing really happens isolated being. Look at Source. Source is all that is, but it's that oneness. It's just existence, consciousness, energy, and creation. What did it do? It fragmented itself to be able to create multiple play aspects. Let me experience myself in billions of different playgrounds with different states, different ways of complete as I play on those playgrounds. So this is the powerful aspect of it itself. So this is really what we're doing here at this time.
Okay, so I do think it's an opportunity, maybe even collecting to gather together. Because we connected. There's a few questions. One person was asking about, Alyssa was asking about, talk about happening to rest all the satanic worshippers and pedophiles and the elite who participate in all this stuff. Is this...
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that too. Again, a lot of the information that's been going on is that, okay, we needed this to kind of shut things down so that we would be able to, the sort of collective can go collecting the ones that have been playing the negative roles, okay? We have to understand the negative and positive roles were all part of the dance, and we came here to experience either part of it and really transition all of that, right? So, in essence, is part of that happening? Well, in a way, yes, it is. And is it to the degree it's being shared with the possibility? But again, we're looking at it and saying, okay, just because you played a negative role, which all of us in one lifetime or another, or many of lifetimes, have played positive, negative roles, because that's what we have been doing up to this point in time, playing one role, then the next role, and so forth. And not in a karmic base, but in a sense of just coming into play. So right now, any individuals that are involved in holding that very closed off state because they chose to play that role or agreed to for our sake, believe it or not, and you can say, well, okay, the satanic stuff and all of that stuff is negative. Well, it's still part of Source, it's still part of the experience, it's part of whatever, but at the same time, it's allowing us to elevate and allowing us to really experience the polarity so we can move in a grander way. So this is really what's taking place at this time. So in essence, some of that happening, some of it is happening. Some of the relocation of people in certain positions are, playing, dropping, or what you can call, resigning, or whatever it is. And a lot of the structures of systems and corporations and whatever else are being looked at and whatever else. So is it serving? Is it not serving? Is it still supporting this or not? So there will be transitions of that nature. Is it, saying, okay, we got to arrest all these evil people or put all these people behind bars or kill or do whatever at this point for our world to change? It doesn't really work that way. Because, yeah, you can look at it that way, but what are we looking at? We're still looking at polarity. We're still going into right and wrong. That's what we're doing. We're looking at right and wrong. And again, we're looking at separation where you're saying, we got to punish them because they're the culprits of our life. They're just playing They're just playing the role. It was part of the inverted matrix, the 2D, 3D. They're just playing the roles. So in fact, what it is, it's really saying, okay, some of them may need to have that experience because they've said, okay, we'll agree to have that experience where we can get arrested, get this or that, because that's their way of relieving it. But in essence, you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, you guys, you don't have to play that role anymore. We free you from it. It's no longer required. You can drop it. You can be, I'm trying to think of the word because it's in my head, but I can't say it. But in essence, we relieve you of your responsibilities. We relieve you from the roles that you've played. Imagine those souls. Imagine whatever of that operating system feeling, great, I don't have to play in that heavy-duty, polarized, lost state of playing that negative role. Because it's not easy, because it's outside of our range of our natural state. So the thing is, you're doing a negative role. It doesn't feel good. You can create over and over again saying, okay, I feel powerful, I feel this, I feel that, because I have dominance over somebody. But that dominance is fake. It doesn't really support. And it's like, okay, let me just do this and finish it. How many of us in our lives say, well, I have a certain duty and I have to finish it, and you can't wait to have it done so you can now play the game in a different way. So it's the same with them, playing whatever it is. Yeah, you could look at it and say, okay, some of them don't have an operating system that have any levels of consciousness and stuff like that, but they're still part of the dance. They're not separate from other aspects of ourselves. We are all part of it. So really, at this point, some of the stuff is happening to some degree. Absolutely. Some changes are going to occur. Of course it's going to occur because we're ready to let go of that stuff, because it's not really the playground we want to support any longer. We stepped into a new platform, a new playground, new state of being where we can go in more of our organic state. And for us, we don't have to have the non-organic, what we call inverted stuff being perpetuated to the same degree. Now, is it going to all disappear like this? No, it's going to be in stages, because the fact that we're still, at a point of, phasing out, because we have this fear that if all of that is unplugged, what's going to happen? Okay? So the other thing we have to understand, too, with any of this unfolding, we have this idea that in one way or another, if we're eliminating this, we don't know how to live life. Because all the life I've experienced up to this point in time revolved, and has been the main theme of right, wrong, good, bad, and the fact of whatever that may be. So in essence, it's going, okay, this is something I'm done with, but I'm moving out of it, but it's a transitional aspect of it. So you're going into that, because many of us have believed that that's the only world that exists. This is the game of life. This is what the human experience is about. Like what I've talked about in the past too, the fact that a lot of people say, well, this is human nature to be in fear, to be fight or flight, compete, or to be negative, or to be, what do you call, controlling, or the fact that it's human nature to fight and to kill and to conquer and all of that stuff. It's human nature to work in that way. It's not. That was a plug-in as part of our experience for us to transition from it, because now we're done with it. Our human nature is very cooperative, very in alignment with one another. It's very connected with one another. And that's what we're giving ourselves the opportunity to be able to do that much more powerfully than ever before. It's not about the fact that that's human nature. Our human nature is very peaceful, very loving, very playful, and very resourceful in creating experiences that really elevate and bring the whole human experience to a whole completely different level. So the survival part is just something we've taken on as part of an operating system when we were introduced the inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D part of the play. Go ahead.
I just want to share, Sharon shares, to please convey we need to reframe our wording out of social distancing to physical distancing. We are able to communicate through internet, phone, online, and can shift the vantage points. So she just wanted to have that.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Thank you for that. It's Sharon, you said?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Yes, it's not about distancing from one another. It's from a physical aspect at this point in time. Yes, you're not, meeting physically, like it was said, but the connection is much more powerful, because in essence now we're connecting not only from soul to soul, from our essence, but also using the telephone, the internet, whatever other means of communication. Even if you're going on the social media and sharing with one another your experiences, your awareness of what is playing out, receiving what other people have to share and so forth. And you're creating communities of that, gatherings of that nature. So you're not meeting physically, but you are meeting yourselves through that level of connection. And then eventually the physical stuff starts coming back in. Go ahead. Thank you for that.
Am I on?
Yes?
Oh, it's on still? Okay. Jules was asking, have you any advice as to how we can assist the children?
Are you on, Phil?
I don't know. No.
Okay, try again.
Okay. Have you any advice, Jules has asked, have you any advice as to how we can assist children to help them adjust to all of the collective fear? The children are being told to keep washing their hands, and this can create a more stressful situation for them.
Oh, excellent point. Excellent point. Okay, so the whole idea of the fear, you got to wash your hands and so forth. I mean, you can share with the kids and saying, listen, this is what, is being shared and whatever else. And, but a fear. But then you can ask the children, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that you really, besides us telling you or everybody else telling you that you got to wash your hands? And, because again, automatically you say, well, that's irresponsible if you're not washing your hands and so forth, because now you can jeopardize the health of the child. But for you to even focus on that, you're basically reflecting on the inverted matrix and so forth, that you're choosing to unplug anyways. So when you're sharing to the kids, saying, it's always great to have clean hands and so forth, but not to be afraid the fact that there's going to be some germs or something of that nature that's going to affect you in a negative way. Because that's kind of the belief system of what everybody has shared. But at the same time, realizing that, we are in charge of our experience. Are we going to have something or not? Because, the one thing we have to keep in mind is that it does not matter if we are super cautious or super lax. You're only going to have the experience that's going to serve you because you've agreed to take it on, no matter what. And I've seen people that have been super cautious about every part of their experience to make sure that they're not exposed in any way, and they catch it, or they have a form of it anyways. And others that are, still going out and doing whatever they need to do and so forth, and again, they're not having the experience. So that really kind of confirms the fact that really it's up to us if we're going to have the experience or not. So sharing to the kids, we don't have to be afraid to live, not afraid to, oh my God, we have to be, because then you're programming in the focus that the world is dangerous, that germs are dangerous, the world is whatever, right? So we're only going to look at that. The other thing is, too, we have to understand that the body, at this point in time, we're going to, when we look at this later on, this whole experience, you're going to find that it's going to be, in a sense, humorous that we went down that path, but also see it how perfect it was and how it really activated a certain part. So you have to look at it, this whole thing about, the virus coming through our system and so forth. What we're doing is we're also training our body to respond to that exposure, because it's all over the place. We already have it in our system. Is it going to activate it or not? But it's really training your body just to recognize it as, oh, here it is. I can see what it is, and I can address it if it actually, stimulated to be one way or another in our experience. So you really, as much as this is coming around again in a different, in a different, different strain of it, that at this point in time, the body adjusts to it. The same thing with, the Wi-Fis and all the different cellulars and satellites and so forth. Yes, the body may respond in a certain way, but it adapts to it. And in fact, so that it doesn't get affected to the same degree, because for the amount of, radio frequencies, television frequencies, ham or whatever you want to call it, or the different frequencies through cellular towers, the different frequencies that are from the satellites and so forth, we should be even in worse shape than we could imagine. In fact, we should have been all fried, in a sense. Then you got the Wi-Fis and all of these other new things. But what happens is the body adapts to it. Are we creating an environment that's supportive? Well, you're creating an environment that the body has to really adjust to, and accordingly, but it would, because the body is designed to be able to adapt and create whatever it is. I'm not saying that we still launch all of this, because we're going to we're actually bringing forth new technologies as we go along. Technologies that support us, but also technologies that in one way or another would advance our physical construct at this point in time. So really just be at ease with the kids in the sense of saying, we don't have to put fear in this, but, just as an extra precaution, we can wash our hands, but don't make it, oh, we got to wash our hands for everything that we do, because then we're creating fear. And we're creating a fear that the world is hostile, that the world is dangerous, and that, living at this point in time is the only way is through, survival or being, very super cautious, because that actually creates a program within themselves that it's dangerous to be alive. Go ahead.
Just clarification, Alyssa said, because I was doing something, so I didn't hear exactly what you said. Mm-hmm. Did you say that we'll adapt to 5G?
Yes. Well, everything that's been launched up to this point in time, and we've been launching stuff since the 1900s, or even I guess it was early 1900s, that everything that's been launched, each and every time it's launched, it affects the body. And each time it's been launched, the body has to adjust and modify itself so that it can actually still live in that environment, or still flourish in that environment, or be able to function in that environment. If you look at the amount of toxicity, the amount of, energetic waves and whatever else that's going on, yes, it's not supporting the most powerful physical existence in its most natural state, but you're noticing that we're still adopting, and here we are. We have 7.7 billion people still on the playground, maybe experiencing certain parts of things that not in the lightest way, but at the same time, it adapts and it adjusts accordingly. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to continue to create all of these technologies that disrupt the physicality or give it an extra challenge, but it's actually allowing us to say, okay, we can adapt, but we don't have to do it that way. So we're going to look at another way that supports the physicality, supports the environment, supports the one we experience. So as for the 5G part, yes, it is launching in certain parts of the world, and you'll notice that in those certain parts of the world is where, we started with what you can call the coronavirus or anything of that nature, because it just created enough opening energetically for them to experience it, and what was already dormant came a little bit more to life. However, you notice that it's already subsiding, because even where it started, because the body started to adapt and whatever else. Now, does it have to roll out fully? It's still unconfirmed, and it's still at this point in time, it's going to be rolled out or not rolled out. Eventually, we're going to find that it's not something that is very supportive, because there's an infrastructure that will adapt, but at the same time, it's not an infrastructure that supports our truest nature of how we experience life. So we're going to look at a lot of the technologies that we have and really, instead of looking at how can we make it profitable or how can we make it in a way that can play a negative role, we're going to look at it, how can we get technologies that support our journey to make the game of life more interesting and playful and light without putting it, because eventually what we're looking at, and this is the intent from a collective perspective, is that to automate as much as possible and technically advance every part of the human experience that is not something that we collectively want to put focus on. For example, if we're making products of some sort that is necessary and beneficial, because that's what we're going to look at, we're not going to look at just creating, because right now a lot of focus is on creating stuff, products and services, so that we can generate an economy and create or have a movement of, because that's a program, it's a story that's been perpetuated as a collective, but it actually ends up enslaving. So we would now only create what serves, but not with the replication, without the fact of having it for one motive of being, we need to make work projects so that we can have money coming along. We would look at it and say, okay, this is beneficial, and there are people on the planet that would love to do that, including gardening or growing food, focus on that aspect of it, and certain aspects that are, like factories and certain things that we require, we're going to automate in such a way, because we have the technologies to do so, so that it doesn't require, us to be enslaved in playing those roles. So then we can be more free to create and to experience and to have whatever. We didn't come here to pay a price. We didn't come here to go in survival mode. We didn't come here to do any of that. We came here to experience it to start off with, because that's the playground that we're playing with. But we didn't come here to stay in just that experience. We have, so the unrolling of technology will be mind-blowing, because we already have so much advancements that will not only shift us away from a lot of the old technologies of using fossil fuels, using different dirty energies and whatever else, or localizing certain things and then go through an infrastructure that's bringing certain things. You'll find that there's ways to tap into those resources that is beneficial to support us without any of the infrastructure in place and any of the fact that, you have to pay for whatever it is in that essence. So a lot of that will change as part and parcel. I don't want to get too deep into that. Go ahead.
Pauline is asking, what about Nasara? That's the financial shifting of stuff,
Right.
Correct?
Okay. Yes, there is financial readjustment taking place at this point in time. Now, how is it going to play out? Some of it may be from what they've been discussing, but the intent is to look at the system, the monetary system, and seeing how powerfully it's been designed to separate and to stimulate survival, fear, and so forth, to the point of slavery, okay? So as much as all of that was a beautiful experience, but now it's looking at it and saying, okay, we don't have to support that, because having a basic income or having the fact that, the monetary system is balanced out and so forth, and it's more equally flowing through people, that is only a stage that we're going to step through for a period of time to create a change in the focus of whatever's necessary and beneficial. Well, a change from what we believed was necessary and beneficial at this point in time to a point where it's say, okay, we'll have whatever resources while we still have the idea that we need to have that until, that is ready to change, to make it available for others. Because the whole idea in saying, well, we can only survive on the planet, we can only flourish on the planet if everybody's got money, that's an old modality which was created in inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D type of mentality where, the separation part, everything worked backwards in that regard. So to have whatever you require, at this point in time, is part of the unveiling. And, is it going to play out one way or another? There's a lot of opportunities. Some things are coming in together. Other things may not play out exactly how it's played, because all of it is being monitored and adjusted. So the point is is to create an environment where everybody can flourish without being any longer enslaved. So how long is that going to take? It's not going to be a very long process, but at the same time, it is a bringing in of certain parts of that. So, for us to say, well, when that comes through, then we'll be okay, it's really not that. You have to go into, we're okay as it is now, but we're also now allowing ourselves to free ourselves more so that we can enjoy more of the experience of life. And the whole idea that, if we don't have a monetary system, that things are not going to exist because people will not want to work or anything of that nature, it really will stage a scenario where we will closely look at what is really beneficial and necessary, adjust whatever we need to adjust, and then actually at that point in time, be more part of that transition. So I don't know if that clarified it enough for you, because that's a topic in itself.
Okay, Sonia had a question. What about empaths like me? How can we stay grounded? I started developing symptoms since Thursday as soon as energies here took a turn.
Okay, so there's two different things. Empathic can be represented that I feel everything and I'm affected by everything. Really what you're doing is that you can sense the energies coming in, you can internalize it in a sense, utilizing it for yourself without creating a necessity to have any negative symptoms. So the symptoms itself usually indicates there's still some programming within that says this energy stimulates this, or the fact that as an empath that I need to feel what other people feel and go into the depth of whatever they're experiencing. So when you're in your natural state, you will feel energies. You will feel what somebody else is going through, but it doesn't trigger anything within you to the sense of feeling it the same way they feel it, or feeling the intensity of what the collective may be projecting. Because you can be in that soup of energy that's moving left, right, center, all over the place with our experience, but not really affecting you one way or another, because you're in a very neutral state as an observer rather than. Okay, so in essence, I've had to learn that myself, because people can say, well, you're an empathic because you feel other people's energies. Absolutely, I do feel the collective energy, the energies that are moving forward, the reactions that humanity feels, and also, whatever it is. But I've had to also become clear to the point where I don't let those energies create any adjustments on how I feel physically, symptom-wise and otherwise. Okay? So, yes, am I free from symptoms? No, because I've chosen to have certain experiences or whatever else. That's understandable. But at the same time, it's really looking at why am I feeling this way that is impacting me in that way, because it's really just bringing up some story, program, belief system, or some energetic stuff that we have within ourselves. So the best way to do that, when you feel those symptoms, whenever you allow it to come through, you really allow yourself to experience the symptoms or whatever is coming through, and then really accepting it, appreciating the symptoms, appreciating, loving the symptoms. And then what happens with that the symptoms actually move through. So, in fact, because it doesn't have to adhere. So all the programs that carry it also starts to dissolve too, because it's no longer required. So you're not creating, I'm afraid of this coming into my existence and experiencing it, but you're allowing it to flow through, in and out type of thing. So being empathic, so-called, is not saying, oh, being an empathic, I'm going to have to suffer, or that I'm an empathic, that I need to feel stuff, and I really have to make sure that everybody's okay, because or else I'm not going to feel okay myself. It's not about that. And if you do feel any of that, it's really just bringing that energy of yourself by activating your own higher self, like saying, I now activate my home frequency, which is the frequency of your soul. You can say, okay, I now activate the highest form of source essence within my physical form to be able to experience it with a neutrality and an observation point, and allow it to move. Because as you're doing that, you're purging it from yourself, but you're also creating a movement through the collective. So you're already staging it so that others can move through that. Yeah, it can be tough sometimes when you're feeling all the energies and then you feel the symptoms coming up. And yes, we've been having some pretty powerful energies coming through at this point in time, but allow that just to come through and purge you from it, because really that's what we're doing. We're doing purging. So it's important to remember purging is basically allowing all other aspects of the old experiences and defaults and responses to move through us and out of us, really. So it's like a wave of energy coming in, picking up everything that was within you that doesn't serve and pushing it out. And a lot of times it creates certain symptoms, but you allow it to move through you. So let the energies, because that's what the energies is about. It's not to knock the shit out of you or to in some way or another to knock you out of your state. It's really you're letting the waves of those energies to come through you and just wash off or push out, or what we can call carry off, any of the older stuff that we've carried up to this point in time. And a lot of it has to do with our own definitions and labels and experiences and emotional traumas or energies that we've locked into our bodies or anything, and just let it just move through you.
Mena asks, what about the concern about not enough hospital beds?
What about it? Why, we want to go to the hospital? We can all go to the hospital if you want to. We can lie down all along the floors of the hallways and stuff like that. If you want to give power to that there's not enough hospital beds and so forth, remember, you're still in charge of how you choose to experience, because you can move all of this stuff through you without going to any hospitals and so forth. Now, if you feel totally in the fear state and you feel that you need to go there, show up there. You're going to have whatever experience you need. So the beds will open up if it's necessary for you, the beds. If it's not, then you can hang around there just in the waiting rooms or outside. They'll have velvet ropes outside, and you can line up like going to the theater and stuff like that. I mean, I know I'm being playful with this, but at the same time, really, that's not really a concern, because you think that the answer is going to the hospital. If you feel that, then, take that action. I'm not saying that you don't follow what your own inner guidance, and I know some people will turn around and say, well, that's pretty insane. If you don't feel well, you need to go to the hospital. If you feel that way and you have that impulse, show up. But you're going to have whatever experience you need. So if you need the bed, you get the bed. If there's no bed, you don't get a bed. You get to wait. You get to do whatever. Whatever has to go through you will go through you. If you need to check out, you check out. If you need to get sicker, you get sicker. If you need to just have that visit going there, how many people have gone to the hospital and they show up there and they already start feeling better? It's just because the fact that if I'm from away from the hospital and if I go there, I can get intervention or something like that, already shifts certain things. How many times we stood in front of a doctor and it's not the same intensity? Because in essence, it wasn't so much what they can do for you. It's really about the fact that you felt that, I need somehow, from the old program, that I need to go to the hospital if I want to get better or anything of that nature. So, yeah. It's up to you if you want to give power to the fact there's not enough beds or anything of that nature, or the fact that the hospital is going to be overloaded or anything of that nature. It's really up to you to give power to that, but in essence, that's not a concern. Go ahead.
Okay.
And I know I'm not, I might say something that people think is insane, but really when you really look at the big picture, it's not quite that way. Go ahead.
Okay. This one is from Cosmic Energy. Is the school system going to change for good?
Well, the school system has been challenged for a while. That's why a lot of people are doing homeschooling, and other people, are looking at other opportunities, okay? When we really understand what school is about, it was really to indoctrinate, program kids to really live in a 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix state of being, okay? So I know some people talked about that schools really just created opportunities for you to go into a closed up state and to be able to be a factory worker sort of thing. Because, when it did come into place, it was, so that you don't get to explore yourself, you get trained to play a particular role. So right now, as these changes are going along, those particular roles are not going to serve any longer. Not that the fact that we don't need factory workers or any of that other stuff, that will fade too, because that's not going to be necessary. But it's really about the education, because really true state of education is about allowing the children to be themselves. Allow the children to express in the way that they express. Some may be very, technically advanced. Others may be artistically advanced. Others may be just consciously advanced. Others will, be able to play various roles, okay? Because that's their strong suit. They're coming through. Schools are also to promote, in the true state, promote freedom, promote expression, promote creativity and imagination. Because how do we create a different world if we're stifling everybody to put it in a box? So you get education and say, okay, education means you go into the box. This is your box. But look at how many kids are not feeling at home at all or feeling comfortable going to school. Now, of course, there's a social component to it. We're saying, okay, we're going to go to school. We get to connect with friends and so forth. But realistically, a lot of them don't feel comfortable being there. They love the social part, but they don't love the rest of it. Because in essence, it's really just drilling and information in their head and saying this is the way of life when it doesn't resonate for them because they really feel this is not really how it feels. I may not understand how it really is, but this doesn't feel in alignment. And in fact, a lot of the information that is being shared is very inaccurate, okay? And it's also stuff that's obsolete and wasn't even important in the first place. So is the educational system going to transform? Absolutely. And this, what we're going through right now, is already going to look at it in a very different way. It's a start, even though it's already started, it's going to bring it to the next level. This world that we knew by the time we get through this is changed dramatically. Go ahead. I didn't have no expectations, though, at the same time. Go ahead.
I think we're done.
Okay, so the thing is, we have to understand, is you can't put the power in the fact, okay, this has to go through to change my life. No, this is an opportunity for you to change your life, to redirect your life, to look at an opportunity for you to become more the essence that you are and not to work in the old way of life. This is a reset of sorts. It's a reset. This is why it's so globally, because it's not like, okay, we're going to isolate certain parts and let these parts go crazy in playing the game. It's really about the fact of we need to all take time to reflect. We all need to look at different ways of experiencing life. We all need to take the time to connect with ourselves. We all need to really look at everything that we've constructed as a way of life and say, how does it serve? What is best at this point in time? What isn't? Let's start phasing it out, including control structures. Realistically, we can have systems, groups of people, elite people, or governmental people, or whatever people at this point in time saying, well, I'm playing this particular role, and this is the role we're going to do, is limit your life. If we feel that that is necessary and we still hold that on a collective scale, that life would fall apart without it, then, we may hold on to it a little longer. But the thing is, remember, all of these laws, all of these requirements, all of these rules are all made up. We're not an open platform of how to play the game of life. When we're operating, when we allow ourselves to operate in our natural state, there's not a restriction required because there's an honoring, a respect, an admiration, an appreciation for one another and for everything we experience. It's not about taking and competing with somebody. It's about inclusiveness and playfulness where it includes other members of Playmate. So the fact of, I need to take advantage of somebody does not even come to the equation. Or the fact that I need to judge someone doesn't come into the equation in a natural state, because you see a beautiful expression and representation of yourself in different physical forms playing together. Playing together. I say this twice because it is exactly that. We're playing together in this playground. So when we're looking at the full perspective of everything that's playing out, really we're just bringing ourselves back into that state so that we can really experience ourselves at a completely new level. It's not about repeating the old, okay? And this is why all of this is happening right now, so that we can let go more of the role of the old. The old is moving. So the whole game of playing life goes to the next level, but is more aligned with what you are becoming more and more. And it doesn't matter what you came in with, okay? There is no right or wrong. Like I said, there's no right or wrong of how you played the game. There's nothing, no choice you've made that you made a mistake. You may have had a misunderstanding of something, but that misunderstanding led you through a certain path, and it led you to certain experiences with somebody else, or with groups of people, or just individually by yourself, for you to have those experiences to transition and to grow in a bigger, more powerful way. Really. So it's all orchestrated in absolute perfection. That's how it works. It's always absolute perfection. There is no miscreation, no misalignment, even though we played in the polarity game. Was there anything else you wanted us to cover, share, anything like that before we wrap her up?
Not really. Just that we're having a one-day live stream workshop, March 28th.
Yes.
I'm going to post on the chat here the
Okay.
link to Eventbrite.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we do have a workshop coming up on the 28th of March, which is just under 2 weeks from now. And that will be a very hands-on, walk you through as you do the process with us together to really bring the new you that's coming through onto our new playground we call Earth. So it's basically the new you coming into the new world, okay? Because we've already got the new world. It's us that we've been a little reluctant to bring the new you out. That new you is that version, the highest version of yourself, and that version continues to increase. What keeps you limited from that new version is what we're going to play with. We're going to walk through it, we're going to do lots of processes, hands-on and so forth, so that you can move through it, so that you can align in a much more powerful way of playing this game. This is so perfect right now because we're giving time to look at our world, look at our lives, look at everything that's playing out, and really align with what is the truest emerging aspect of ourselves coming out to play. And this is the thing. We're bringing the highest level of ourselves to come out and play. And most of us, that playfulness is that child within you, that inner, curious, playful, adventurous child aspect of yourself, which we always have. We may have said, no, I can't be a child because I got to be a grown-up. I have to be responsible. I have to do this or that. But those things were the old version of us. That is not what we're here to give power to anymore. We're allowing that other part of us to come through, which has been waiting patiently for us to bring up at this point in time. So like everybody said, it's going to be in the comment or shared. It's in the chat. So that information there, if you choose to feel guided towards that. What I would say, it's very powerful. It will be very beneficial for you to be able to move in a very powerful way. If you feel that you need some background information or something like that, we have a trilogy that we did over the last few months, which is also available if you go to the link provided. And there's other resources there to prepare you, but if anything, you want that direct hands-on work together on those processes, including any other activations that we will do, then that's the place to be. Now, it's done all live stream, so you can participate interactively live stream. If you cannot participate on the time of the live stream, you can purchase, you can access the recordings. There will be video and audio recordings that will be provided that will give you the step-by-step, but also the processes involved completely, because we record every part of it, because not everybody can be on depending on what's going on in their life. But look at it right now. We're kind of putting ourselves in a position to have more time for ourselves. So what better way to access material, programs and so forth, because most of the workshops that we've done, the trilogy of workshops that we've done, especially in the last 3, and then the one before that to even start before the trilogy, so it's really 4 different videos, and these are all one-day workshops, have each one prepared you for what you're, stepping into at this point in time. Gives you a deeper understanding, more confirmations within yourself, and giving you the opportunity to step into a grander aspect of yourself as you choose to play from that level. So that's all available for you. It's all in the chat. Feel free to access it. I think some of the description also includes some of the links, but I don't think it includes the links of this workshop. But we can add that in, and really, it's up to us how we move forward now. It's really up to us how we want to play with all of this here. We've presented ourselves an opportunity that is so powerful, so brilliantly constructed for us to really experience something that wouldn't have been possible without doing what we are experiencing right now. So take this opportunity to really use it to the highest. Now, we will be streaming more of the series. If you haven't watched the series, we have several already. I don't know, we're on episode 9, but then we had one of the episodes, we had 4 parts to it. So we've already done 13 different episodes with the introduction, so that's 14 different live streams that we had that are all available, and they're available on Facebook, they're available on YouTube, they're available on Vimeo. So they're all available for you there. Some people may even see it on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn only has the most current one, and also on the same thing with Twitter. But at this point, YouTube would be your best. Facebook kind of moves it around, so it's a little harder. But we do have Advancing Consciousness series group page. And in that group page, the only thing that's in there is all of these videos that we have done live stream. So they're all available for you. They're all free. We do ask if you feel in resonance to contribute, to support the work, to support this. We'd love to carry this on for a longer period of time. We're just going to keep going with the series. Now, there'll be some extra stuff along the way if it comes along at this point, so that if we choose at this point or feel that there's something instrumental, like today, for support you, then we'll include it. We may be looking at possibly a meditation. It could be on the Thursday call, because our next live stream will be this coming Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and depending on where you are in the world, it will be at various times. So you'll have to check how it compares with your time zone with the Eastern time. So I think that's that, and I do appreciate for co-creating this again. And let's go have some fun with all of this that we're experiencing now, and look at the opportunities that we've provided. So enjoy.